Okay, so when you think of the biggest names in English theater, one guy obviously jumps to mind, William Shakespeare, right? But here's the thing. Every great hero needs a great rival. And Shakespeare's, well, he was a man of fierce intellect, a seriously explosive temper, and just massive ambition. Today, we are diving deep into the life of the man who stood right there, shoulder to shoulder with the bard, Ben Jonson.
So let's just start right there. If I asked you to name Shakespeare's #1 competitor, who would you pick? It's a great question because it gets you right into the heart of what the London theater scene was really like back then. And the answer isn't just some historical footnote. It's a story about a man who was, in so many ways, Shakespeare's complete opposite.
Before we even say his name, just listen to this resume. A brawling soldier who actually killed a man in a duel. A super serious scholar obsessed with the rules of ancient Greek and Roman literature. And the favorite playwright of the king, writing these huge, elaborate shows for the royal court. This guy was a walking, talking bundle of contradictions. And his name was Ben Jonson. Let's get into his wild story.
To really get Jonson, you have to start with his beginning, which was incredibly tough. His journey wasn't some story of privilege. Nope. It was a hard climb from the very bottom, from the grit and grime of London to the most elite literary circles imaginable. Now, what's so wild about this is the contrast. He's born right after his father dies. His stepfather makes him become a bricklayer, a job Jonson absolutely hated with a passion. But, and here's the twist, he somehow gets this incredible first-class education, studying under the legendary scholar William Camden. Can you imagine that? One minute you're laying bricks, which you despise, and then the next, you're soaking up Greek and Roman classics. After a tour as a soldier, he came back to London and he was ready to make some noise.
And that early tension, right? The rough, hands-on life versus his brilliant, scholarly mind, that defined his entire life. Jonson was this walking contradiction, a man of incredible intellect who was never, ever afraid to get his hands dirty, often in some pretty violent ways. And this just lays it all out, doesn't it? He's a playwright, sure, but he's also the hothead who kills another actor in a duel and gets thrown in jail for it. He's a classicist, a literary purist who believes in strict rules and discipline, and yet he's also the guy King James I calls to create these lavish, over-the-top spectacles for the court. He was all of these things at once, and that's what makes him so unbelievably interesting.
But Jonson wasn't just a fascinating character. He was a revolutionary thinker. His biggest contribution to the stage wasn't just one single play, but an entire new theory of comedy that would change theater for years. He called it the comedy of humours. Now, this whole thing was based on an old medical idea that your personality was controlled by the balance of 4 liquids, or humours, in your body. If one of those fluids was out of whack, it would create this one dominant, often kind of eccentric personality trait. And Jonson thought, hey, what if I put that on stage? And this table just breaks it down perfectly. Too much blood, and you were sanguine, cheerful and optimistic. Too much phlegm, you were phlegmatic, super calm, cool, and collected. An excess of yellow bile, boom, you were choleric, angry and hot-tempered. Sound like anyone you know? And finally, too much black bile made you melancholic or sad. Jonson basically took these personality types and turned them into his cast of characters. He put this to work brilliantly in his huge hit play, Every Man in His Humor. Every single character was a walking, talking humor, basically a caricature of a real-world personality. It was this incredibly sharp, witty way to hold a mirror up to society and kind of mock everyone's weird little obsessions. And well, people absolutely loved it. Which, of course, brings us to the great rivalry. If Jonson was the classicist, Shakespeare was the natural genius. See, Jonson believed in the ancient rules of drama, structure, discipline, learning. He thought great art was something you crafted with precision. Shakespeare, on the other hand, he was all about raw talent and inspiration. He'd break rules left and right if it made the story better. They were just 2 totally different philosophies of what theater should be.
And yet, and this is what's so amazing, for all their differences, for all their rivalry, Jonson had this deep, genuine respect for Shakespeare's talent. After Shakespeare died, it was Jonson who wrote this incredible tribute, basically admitting that his rival's work went beyond their own era. He was not of an age, but for all time. I mean, what a beautiful, generous thing for one master to say about another.
But Jonson's legacy goes way beyond his plays. He fundamentally changed how the world even saw his profession. He fought to give playwrights the kind of literary respect that he absolutely believed they deserved.
You have to remember, back then, plays were seen as disposable entertainment, not serious literature. They were performed, and then, poof, they were pretty much forgotten. So publishing a collection of plays was already unusual, but Jonson decided to do it with a title that was so bold, so audacious, it was almost a punchline.
He called it Works. That's it. One word, but man, what a powerful word. Back then, the term works was saved for serious, heavy-duty stuff. Theology, philosophy, the classics. By slapping it on a collection of his plays, Jonson was making this huge statement. He was declaring that a playwright was a real author and that plays were real literature, deserving of a permanent spot on a bookshelf. It was totally revolutionary. Ben Jonson died in 1637, and by then his status was so legendary that he was buried in Westminster Abbey, the final resting place of England's kings, queens, and greatest poets. A pretty fitting end for the bricklayer's stepson who clawed his way to the top and became a literary giant.
His gravestone has this simple, perfect epitaph, "O rare Ben Jonson," and it just captures him, doesn't it? He really was rare, a unique, difficult, brilliant man who fought for his place in the world and, by doing that, carved out a whole new level of respect for writers everywhere. And it leaves you with a great question. Without Ben Jonson's fight, would we think of his